Joining us today is Sunitha Erin, a veteran journalist with an experience of 40 years in the Indian media. Currently working as a consulting editor at Hindustan Times, she is known for her deep understanding of Uttar Pradesh's socio-political landscape, a published author, and a TEDx speaker. She brings wealth of knowledge and perspective in today's podcast. Thank you so much for accepting our invite. I have a couple of questions for you. And I think the answers to these questions, everybody would want to know. When women were hardly taking up journalism as their profession, you became the first female editor of Hindustan Times from North India in 2002, which is an incredible milestone. Looking back, what were some of the most tough challenges you faced in your journey, and how did you navigate real danger and discrimination?
Okay, first, thank you for inviting me. Now, you want me to put my 40 years long journey into 40 lines, perhaps? Because it has been a very, very long journey. The first thing I think it was to enter the field was very difficult. The acceptance part that you can be a reporter. They wanted you to work on the desk. And I was very clear that I have to be in the field because I'm a people person. I like interacting with people. Not being very intrusive, but at the same time, I would love to highlight their problems or their achievements. This is something which gives me a kick, I really enjoyed that. So initially, I had problems in convincing my editor to send me to the field. And when he agreed, as he said, okay, you do a story for us. That was before HT. I worked for some time in National Herald.
Okay.
So a colleague of mine, we were given a very interesting, but at the same time a dirty job of doing the civic survey of areas. So we went to Chalk, and we landed in a particular area which was red light area.
Okay.
So a cop came across, he was with us, and we realized because of the cop no one was talking to us. And then we told the cop, you go away. We'll manage. So we climbed the steps. As we climbed the steps, हमने देखा पीछे से वो channel बंद कर रहे थे. I was very young. I had just come from Delhi to Lucknow. I didn't know Lucknow very well. So I shouted, मैंने कहा channel खोलिए. Then we went up, we interviewed those girls, and we found that there were tunnels, how the girls were hidden behind almirahs, the lives they were leading. We had such a big story, but I didn't realize at that time that it's a story.
Okay.
So after doing the story, I went back home. I said, I'm very tired. Today I'm not going to write. And when my editor came to know about it, he called us back. And he said, what are you doing? It's a national story. How can you sleep with a story? Lesson number 1, never sleep with a story, you lose it. If you sleep with a story, you lose it. So came back and started writing. So yes, I had a lot of problems after that. The pimps were following and there was a lot of reaction. So that was my first. But the journey as such, I personally feel has been very exciting because I grew in reporter's shoes.
Okay.
I was a reporter first and then I became editor. So that journey, and I perhaps I never wanted, I was not looking for an editor's position also. I was very happy. Hindustan Times, when I joined, was only a national edition and I was working. And every second day, I used to be on page 1. And my father used to be my critic. He used to tell me because he lived in Delhi. So he used to tell me where I went wrong, where I could have been better. But because the politics of UP in the late 80s and 90s was very exciting, Ayodhya was happening prior to that. We were chasing dacoits and ravines. There were so many criminal rights and so much was happening. Even in the UP assembly, there was a gory battle between the MLAs and the guards were protecting us. We were only 2 women at that time. So it was very exciting. And when one day my editor called me and said, that we have decided to give you this position, but we'll test you for 6 months. I said, I never asked for it. So if you want to test me, you can test me, but I never asked for it.
Okay.
Because I had never seen a women editor till then. And I really didn't know in UP, which was a very male dominated, now it is not so much, where the people were very reluctant to share information with you. So much so, some of the chief minister, I was recalling and talking to somebody, Veer Bahadur Singh ji, very nice person, but he never looked at me while talking to me. So I used to tell him, look at me and talk to me. मेरे से आप बात कर रहे हैं, मेरा क्वेश्चन का जवाब दे रहे हैं. So he used to say, I don't feel very comfortable. And that day I said, I'm not a woman, I'm a journalist. A line which I've kept repeating till date, that a woman should be treated as by her profession. Then only you command respect. If they look at you as a woman, they give you concessions, or they think that they are going to ask concession. So it is discrimination and all that. I don't think so. I think every job you have to battle your way. Some assignments are very, very challenging and you are not very sure you'll return home safe. And also it somewhere disturbs your mind, because somewhere you're very soft. If you see 48 bodies I saw, there was an accident, bodies got drowned. I couldn't sleep whole night because I saw so much of crying and all that. It's difficult, but at the same time, it's rewarding also. And I've looked at the rewarding part more than the difficult part.
So you see the positive more than the negative.
Yeah.
You talked about how difficult it was for you, to work in the profession. But was it ever difficult to convince your family?
No, there I think I'm one of those lucky people.
Okay.
When I drifted into journalism. It was not something which I think my parents suggested or anybody suggested to me. I was fond of writing. As I told you, I loved meeting people. And I got married while I had done I wanted to prepare for competitions, as all parents want their children to be. I was an average student, by the way. I was not very brilliant. So, but in any way, I knew if I had studied, I would have done that. And we never had counselors to guide us. There were no counselors.
Yes.
Today you have counselors and they tell you which profession is apt for you. Like later on, from my horoscope, somebody said that you should have been a lawyer, because I argue too much. If you look at everything logically, so I argue. That's my plus and a minus point. But sometimes people don't like it. So I drifted. My mother-in-law used to write.
Okay.
And luckily, she was not the one who wanted her daughter-in-law to spend her time in kitchen only. And so she said, तुमने इतना पढ़ा है तो क्या सब्जी बनाने के लिए पढ़ा है? सब्जी तो कोई भी बना सकता है. So I was very lucky, and my husband was very supportive, because there were very few women. I was most of the time with men. I came from Delhi. That was not an issue. Studied in Delhi University. This thing was not there, boy and a girl. But definitely after marriage, you become a little more. But he was very, very supportive. So I think I'm one of those lucky people who had full family support. And I say it because a lot of women face problems at home.
Even today.
Even today. Lot of them.
Yes. In one of your TED Talks, you discussed the tension between personal choices and societal expectations for women. How do you think young women today can balance that without losing themselves?
Look, one thing which I say very clearly, I'll give you 2 examples. I met a girl in one of P-level school. She got a very ambitious looking, smart girl. And she said, I want to join forces. But my parents, they are not allowing me to do that. I said, why? So she said, the relatives are against it. Like, how determined are you? So she said, I'm 200% determined. I can do it. And I'm very committed. I said, revolt. Go on a fast. Because same family members, your relatives, your parents are succumbing before your relatives. So your same family, friends, neighbors will come and salute you the day you'll wear a uniform. But at the same time, I went to another college where a girl was asking me questions about why can't I move around at 12 o'clock in the night? Why can't I wear a short dress? So I said, if you want to wear a short dress, you move around in half a meter kapra. Nobody, but then be prepared for the consequences that you have to face. You know, everything, it depends what do you want in your life. Are you more happy moving around at 12 o'clock while you should be spending time in building your career? You have your life ahead of you. I met a student in IIT college. He was addressing his colleagues and he said, when I used to study and everybody said, पढ़ता रहता है, कुछ करता नहीं है, disco नहीं जाता, ये नहीं करता है. बोले, today, many of them are still slogging while I go to disco every night. He did very well. So it depends what your choices are. You're a career person, then things are not easy. This world is full and we all think we are the best. No. I think we are a country where there's so much of talent in every field. There is competition in every field. So it's up to you. You want to build your career first and then enjoy your life. Or you can balance both. You can do both. You have 24 hours. You can do damn it, everything you can do in that. Why not enjoy? But at the same time, if you have decided that this is my goal, then your eyes should be on your goal.
How has perception of women changed over time? What are the biggest safety concerns in India today?
Perception about women. I think gradually, reluctantly, the country is accepting the fact that they can't stop women from progressing. That she is full of talent. She is a multitasker. If you stop her by saying that you have to take care of your children, she'll find a way to take care of her children and also do a job. I got married and when I got my job in Hindustan Times, I was expecting my first child.
Yes.
And when I went, Khushwant Singh called me for an interview. So I didn't know what to wear and I chose a very flowery sari so that I could hide my baby bump.
Yeah.
And I went and he just thought a very fat woman has come to meet me. And he gave me a job because he had very good recommendations from somebody in Lucknow. And after 3 months, the message went on the ticker that admitted in hospital first. And after some time, we didn't have laptops and all that then. And the second message went that blessed with a baby boy. And Khushwant Singh, as everybody knew him and his sense of humor and wit, he said, how can a lady produce a child in 3 months? So, but I had my kids, but I never told anybody what my problems are. That was something which I had to arrange.
I think someone very recently also reminded me of the story where you had to hide your baby bump.
Yeah.
And people, they also talked about how far we've come as a society in general, because now they're getting their they're announcing that they're pregnant or they're getting their baby bump photo shoots done. So I think,
and now you get, I think, more maternity leave. That time it was only 3 months. So I wanted to work till my last day, till I went to the hospital.
Really?
Because I thought I'll get more time to spend with my baby. You're getting my point?
Yes.
So I didn't want to waste my 1 month before the delivery. I wanted to work till the last. I was lucky that I had a supportive family system and friends. But there can be girls, there can be women who don't have that. You asked another thing, concern. Concern is your safety. When I got married, I traveled all night. I never felt scared.
Really?
No, never. I felt safe. It has happened that in the morning my editor called me and said, "What's the news of the day?" I said, "I didn't know. Kamalapati Tripathi had died. Varanasi. His cremation was due." He said, "Why don't you go?" And that's the story of the day. And I went there. I took a friend of mine. She was also a journalist from Telegraph. Both of us drove down to Varanasi, covered it. 9 o'clock, we got the Central Telegraph office open to file our story. And then 10ish, we managed to get 10:30 or so, we managed to get something to eat near a railway station, Varanasi railway station. And then my friend asked me, where do we stay? We didn't have any place. So I said, you want to stay or should we drive back? So I asked my driver he was actually the owner of that service, but he used to go with us. So I said, Nakvi ji, chalenge raat bhar? So he asked me why. My son will get up by the time I'll reach. I'll be able to see him off to school.
Okay.
And I drove all night, 3 of us. And we reached here at 5 o'clock. There are small things. But now don't look at it. What a sacrifice. A mom will do, yaar. It's not a sacrifice. But the happiness that I saw on my child's face, that was something. It is there.
Ma'am, but why do you, so like, it was shocking to hear that you didn't feel unsafe during that time. And, at that time, I don't think there was live location. There was, current location. You didn't have GPS. You couldn't just instantly call someone, do a video call. Okay, I'm stuck here, help me. But how is it possible that with more technology, ideally, danger should decrease, but it has only been increasing?
Somewhere the values have gone down. As there is a rat race, we want everything in our lives. I think when we were growing up, there was only one television.
Yes,
Then my father had a Vespa scooter. That's it. And we never needed more than that. We were happy with that. Today, I live alone, but I maintain 2 cars. And there are TVs in every room. This is my story. Women is out. Now, here I'll come to, people say we should be able to make our own choice of what we wear, how we walk, how we talk. I agree with that. It's a personal choice. Nobody has any right. But is a society prepared to see semi-dressed women? And with liquor, there are a lot of things that are happening, the same technology. I've tried to assess why suddenly you read that there were 3 guys, they were sitting somewhere, and then they saw a woman and they were raped her. Why? Because, why do they use their phones for? Liquor. Somehow, I think where age doesn't give you protection. Age is not your security. Like when I got married, I thought, I am a married girl now. And nobody will even look at you. We read in Agra a 90-year-old lady being raped by the... So, now age does not give you that security.
3 months old are being raped.
3 months. When people say about clothes, I said, what about a 3-month-old child? How can you say what she was wearing? She was raped because she was not wearing proper clothes. I see women liberation. I don't see liberation from the point of view of kitchen or what you wear, but liberation, your empowerment is your personal, professional choices that you make and make right choices.
Yes.
That is also very important, the choices that you make. I think I see it as a revolution. And for every revolution, some sacrifices are made, some struggles are done. And it's a part of that.
I think what you said, it reminded me of an episode. So in our colony, my friend's maid used to, she was very bubbly, very friendly, she would just talk to everybody. So her husband used to get very insecure. And very often, so I've only seen it once, but people used to tell us that it used to happen very often. Once we saw there was a mountain of stones. Construction ho raha hoga kahin. So he is thrashing her there with slippers, with a stick, and people in the society They've made a circle around them and are watching.
Mm.
And then my mum saw it. I think she was in an evening walk. She just, got around that area and she stopped it. And I don't think I've ever been more proud to be her daughter.
Mm.
But it was so embarrassing and it was so outrageous to see that people are watching it. And it was 7-8 years back, so obviously social media was not that heavy. Now people will be standing and making a video of it
That.
and posting about
And
it.
also, I don't know where the cops, they have also drifted from their duties. There are certain things, the support that you should be getting from them, from the system also doesn't come. So the common man today refuses to interfere because he thinks that he is going to, get all the wrath for that. Earlier, I remember when I went abroad, I never saw any women being thrashed in my family. So I was attending there was some lecture on domestic violence and I was talking about it. And then everybody later on, I said, I haven't seen because I had not seen. Later on, when I came back to India, I did a lot of research and I realized it's a story of almost most households. And I thought how ignorant I was. But just because it didn't happen in my family, and I don't know if it happened in my extended family because I was not there every time to see. But let's look at the good things also. Now women are doing so well also.
Of course.
Look at the officers who are doing so well. Look at Sunita Williams, if it has come to that.
Yes.
Huh? Why not look at her? Why only look at
The
negatives? I think there's so many positives also. And if you look at positives, I think it gives you more inspiration.
Could you throw some light on how journalists function, newsrooms operate, what is investigative journalism, and what is your advice for students who want to pursue their career in this?
Okay, I'll start with the last question of yours. Now, for the students, let me tell them very, very frankly, I'm talking to all of you. Journalism is no glamour. Don't join it for glamour. It's an addiction. Once you join it, you can't leave it. So don't come for glamours. For a few days, you may like shaking hands with the chief minister, prime minister. People get, you meet everybody, you know everybody, but only for a few days. But later on, it becomes a very routine thing. So no glamour part. People will recognize you, but after a few days, you don't want to be recognized. You want your personal life, So now let me tell you that. I always say that media is one group which teaches best management principles. In fact, I'm planning to prepare a paper on that. How a media house, if you're working, how management students should come and work in a media house and learn the best management principles. And it starts from planning to execution to everything, revenue generation. We start our day like any other day now because of social media. We have systems to, somebody watching the ticker and everything. There are stories that we want to do, we want to follow up. We plan everything. Sometimes by the end of the day, everything changes. Everything changes. You have a huge development. We had Varanasi, we had some it was some incident. I think there was some clashes or what was it? Give me some time to plan everything. I'll send you a message and you'll get everything by 11 o'clock. How I'll manage? Leave it to me. And then I had, we worked out. I told one guy, one of my reporter was sitting right in front of the TV, writing down everything. I spoke to my Hindi counterpart. I said, we just have one stringer. So I'll be needing your copies, all the copies. So we had all the Hindi stuff coming to us. I told my stringer to remain posted at one of the points. I put one job on the translation one, the other one on and we produced 4 pages that day.
Okay.
Investigative journalism, which is now a rare thing. Okay. I think there are very few papers who are doing investigative journalism. There are 2 reasons for that. One, you have limited staff. For investigative journalism, you have to leave the reporter to work on a story for a few days. Nobody can do investigative journalism in 2 hours, 3 hours time. Second way is use RTI. Now, RTI, if you use, you don't get replies. For months, you don't get replies. You keep on waiting, you file an RTI. And in fact, there is a book written by Shamlal Yadavji of Indian Express, who has written journalism through RTI. He has done very good stories sitting in Delhi. And that's another way of doing investigative journalism. Third is that CAG report comes. Either you just publish it as it is, or you work deeper into it and then do it. I've stood in the court so many times, and for no fault of ours, we every time we got a reprieve. But in any way, going and standing before the judge and apologizing for what you think you have done right, that you were right, and you are apologizing for that, becomes very, very, it hurts you.
Yes.
It hurts you. So investigative journalism, yes, there are papers who are doing it. I think every paper is trying to do it. But on subjects like climate change and all these environment related, gender related, because you need data. And data journalism is a new thing which is now.
Yeah.
But people don't read so much. They somehow figures don't attract readers or audience.
Especially the younger generation.
No, they don't. They want everything in concise and short. I remember meeting a group of, and I was talking about in US, and I was talking about at USA Today or somewhere. And I asked them that how do you get your information if you don't read newspapers? Because that time when I went, newspaper were going down and they were really concerned about it. So they said, we know how to find. They said two things. We know what we want to read and we know how to locate that.
Okay.
So, the generation of today, they are smarter, they're tech savvy, they're intelligent.
I have two questions from investigative journalism, which is how long essentially does it take for an investigative journalism to actually, have like true content?
It all depends what's the subject.
Okay.
A crime story it may involve traveling, meeting a lot of people, recording it. As I told you, it's increasingly becoming difficult to get people on record, and it may take about a week or so. But if you're doing something in Lucknow and it's a story about a murder or say somebody being thrown out from the 10th floor or whatever, that may take for a good investigative report. I think that still requires 2 days time, because you really have to keep cross-questioning the information that you get before you produce the report.
Right. And the second one was, you mentioned that, you had to sometimes go to court and apologize for the things that you feel were right. What were your thoughts during that time? And did you think it was justified with what was happening? And, how would you want support that was not given at your time? How would you want that to happen today?
No, I think you have to protect your back. You must have, if you are writing something which you think can invite problems for you, then you should keep all your documents, everything with you.
Okay.
And now with WhatsApp and everything. Now, supposing you're writing about somebody, do send a message on WhatsApp. Wanted to talk to you about this and this. Wait for some time. Again send. Call. Keep the record. So that nobody can say that you did not contact us. Because what happens today, anything appearing in the print is picked up by the Google.
Yeah.
Now it has happened with me that a very senior police officer, he was suspended and FIR was lodged against him. And we reported it. It was some case of property and all that stuff. Later on, he got a clean chit from the police. Now he came to us and he wanted us to remove the story. Now, I could remove the story from my website. How do I go to Google? And then he started telling us, threatening us, sending us, okay, I'll take you to the court. And his lawyer started talking to us. So I told Delhi that it's up to you that whether we face music in the court or we remove. So we requested Google. It was not such a big thing where we thought we had everything with us. We could have fought a case also. But the issue was removal of a copy. It was not that. Facts were different. So we did that. But then there can be, it's becoming very lengthy now. We had a columnist writing for us, and he wrote about one army general, Central Command here, about a house that person had forcibly occupied.
Okay.
And before I reached office, I used to reach office by 11. By 10:30, my PA started calling me and said that there are about 7-8 Jawan cars, and they all have come, all uniform guys, and they want to meet you. I said, offer them tea, bitao, main aati hu.
Yeah.
So I went, and they came, a lot of them, and they started at, they tried to browbeat me, and they wanted a corrigendum. I said, one, we don't give corrigendum of a column. I'll have to, if we are giving corrigendum, then it has to go to the columnist, and the columnist must respond to it also. So for an hour, there was a lot of argument.
Okay.
And I stood to my stand. I said, no, we are not going to do that. Then they said before leaving that, would you like to have coffee with the army commander? I said, yes. So tomorrow at 11, I said, fine, I'll be there.
How do you think political reporting shapes young people's perception of politics and their career choices? Many millennials and Gen Z rely on social media for news and feel that mainstream media is either biased towards one political party or does not cover most critical issues. As a result, they're losing interest in it. How do you think mainstream media can still stay relevant in these generations and the ones to come? What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?